Hi, everyone. It's Norman Kochneck here from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochneck. And as you can see, I've actually got a reasonable background. It's actually my backyard. I live just that way in front, but the house is actually there, and I've got the backyard behind me. And I haven't got a chateau like Chris has, but it's pretty reasonable. So, yes, I'm in Coogee in Australia. I'd love to be in Ahmedabad for today's match. What an exciting match. I've got Chris Vernon here now at Vern158. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. It's a much more sociable time in the morning to be getting up to do these chats. So I did promise a friend of mine, Mr. John Bowden, actually, I'm wearing the Seven Oaks cap, Norman. An interesting fact that he believes is true is that they think that where cricket invented the middle stump was actually on the Vine at Seven Oaks. So I don't know if that's entirely true, but before then, it was rumoured that they played with two stumps. So I said I'd give him a shout out and thought that might be an interesting fact for you to look into, because obviously I know you love Seven Oaks Vine. So,
well, that's interesting because we should get that gentleman on the show, because I actually did stumble across the fact that Seven Oaks Vine was of some importance. Here's Adam now.
Hello,
Adam Holio.
how are you?
Good.
Morning, Smokey.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. Yeah, a much better time for me. As I said, the first test we did, I was a bit zombie-like at 3 a.m. So this is much better, 8 a.m. So
you got having a bad hair day, mate, or are you trying?
I'm just wearing. It's always a bad hair day. You see, look at the state of that salad.
Well, I've got a bad hair day, but I'm after a man that you know very well, Adam, Dave Graveney, was talking about wearing hats with inside the house and what have you. He was on our show last night.
Oh yeah.
And he might be on today. We're not sure whether he's got the link or not.
Yeah.
Was he responsible for selecting you or dumping you? Can he give us some goss?
It was both, mate. He selected me and dumped me, but he's one of my favourite people. It's,
okay, great.
He was our manager. We had one of the most amazing tours out to Australia in '96 with the England Lions. It was my first ever tour with England of any description, and I was captain. And it just turned into a drinking trip. But on that drinking trip, we so happened to be every Australian side in sight whilst being hungover. It was quite a remarkable trip.
Well, if I'm being really honest with you, if you go through the history of cricket, a Doug Walters or a David Boone or a Kerry O'Keefe or Rod Marsh, they all drank.
There's alcoholics everywhere.
And they were some of the best players you've ever seen.
If you
go to Doug's place now, there's more beer cans than... Doug's got more beer cans around his house than, little toy figurines you get when you travel. He's got more of those.
Was there some decent drinkers in England set up then, Smokey? Was it more of a...
by the time England, there was no drinkers really. It was Freddie and me. Me and Freddie. Who?
Al Malal?
Well,
was he on the tour with you then?
Al Malal, he wasn't a drinker then, I don't reckon. I reckon he's just discovered it and making up for lost time since he retired.
I heard that David Lloyd actually drank because after what Jeff Thompson did to him. This might be another story.
That's for pain relief, mate.
Probably is. Yeah, so Dave Graveney was meant to be on. I have connected with him now. It was fantastic having him on last night. We had a great chat. It was very informative and very insightful. With Simon and Chris, a partner, joined us. Monty can't make it today, but otherwise, this is a nice, comfortable 3 for what is the pre-game or pre-first day performance of both England and India. It's going to be an amazing test, don't you think, Adam? The fact that we've got obviously a pitch that will take spin, will have the ability to have plenty of swing due to the pink ball, some dew at night.
Yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, it's a fascinating test. I reckon, especially with all the stuff that's been going on with the pitch 5 days out. It looked like goddamn Headingley. Rather, it was like I was like having a lot of jokes with people saying, "Won't look like that at the start." So it'd be interesting to see how it looks today. It could be like, like one of those before and after reveals when they do the makeovers.
But in the reverse fashion, though, looking better before, looking worse after.
I think better just they've had a live webcam of like Trent Bridge now and just superimposed it onto the back stadium. Yeah.
But have you seen the visuals of this ground? It is absolutely picturesque. It's magnificent.
Well, I don't know about that. It's like a massive Goliath of a stadium. I wouldn't get. What about picturesque, mate? Like picturesque's like Arundel or Lilac Hill, mate. It's not. It's 110,000 stadium. It's not picturesque.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'm using the wrong term.
Impressive.
Okay.
Impressive. Architectural brilliance.
Talking about architectural brilliance, we've got Pretty Parlour on the phone.
Hi, namaste everyone.
Morning. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So Pretty, I'm back in that lovely backdrop again. I'm back in that same location.
I like that. It seems like I mean that it's been several hours, right? Why is it still very light? Still in the day.
It won't be. It'll be dark probably very soon. In the next hour, less than an hour. All right. So
here.
Sorry.
It's dark here in the Gold Coast.
Yeah. As
dark
in
already,
gloomy,
mate.
Rainy dark.
Dark, mate. No, like we're going to sleep, mate. It's like dark. It gets darker up here because the further north.
Okay.
Further north. You
Not
must have
that far.
You done geography at school, mate? Come on.
I did. I've experienced live my geography. I've been to these places. No. All right. Jeez. Now Adam got me. Can't count up to past 4. I've got all these ridiculous 6-0 wins that I was claiming to do, and now my geography's stuffed. Jesus. Not getting you for a reference, that's for sure. So Pretty's got pink flowers there. Are they pink or are they red? They're more pink. Because it's a
pink, very light pink.
He didn't do art either, mate.
Like a fuchsia or something like that.
The reality is it's appropriate because it is, in fact, a pink test. So there you go.
Yeah,
did you realise that, Adam?
Yeah, that's why she did it. She's one step ahead of you.
It just random. It's a coincidence.
Don't let the truth.
And I'm wearing pink. I didn't mean to. I just.
You don't tell people that. You always pretend you did just because you're so far ahead of the game. Just bluff.
The reality is Adam's got pink cheeks because maybe he's had a rosé before. I'm not sure. All right. No. So let's get on with this. Now, it's exciting. We know that we've got an amazing location in Mortara Stadium in obviously Ahmedabad. The location's amazing. The Lakshmi Sharma says eyes on fashion with Norman. Now, that's not what the show's called. No, Lakshmi. You've been on the show before, you shouldn't call it. So the reality is that it is an amazing stadium. It is structurally quite aesthetic from a structural perspective. The coloration of the seats. The view will be, it does seem like you're far away from the play, though, but there's no obvious cover anywhere, so that'll be interesting. So, but to see 55,000 people in this venue, namely half, it's going to be quite a loud raucous coming out of there. Chris, what's your take on the sides? We talked about it a bit last night. I actually posted on my community page my sides. What's your take on the sides? Start with
England first. I think England's an interesting one. I still don't see them playing 4-seamers. I think that they would. I think it would be mad in India to play 4-seamers, especially as we know that India won't be. India are going to go in with 2 spinners. So the only reason we would do that is if we feel that not playing Dom Best really is a weakness to us, and playing Broad or Mark Wood would be a massive gain. Let's face it, the Indians aren't going to produce any sort of seaming wicket. The only time that the seams are going to come into it is if it does a bit under floodlights with the pink ball. So I think that they might change the top 3. I think we might see Crawley, Sibley, Baristow top 3, but then I would suspect that Best will come in for Moeen, and then Archer and Anderson will come back in for Stone and for Broad. But there's been talk about it, and Root certainly didn't rule out the 4-seamers in the press conference he did. But I think that's just not trying to give too much away. I'd be if he picks 4 seamers and we get hammered and Aksar and Ashwin take 12 wickets in the test between them, then they'll get crucified in the press. So I don't see it happening.
So you're saying 3 seamers and 2 spinners?
Yeah, I think so.
Sides.
It depends what Stokes' fitness like to bowl is. If he's fit to bowl 12, 15 overs a day if needed, then I don't see them needing 4 seamers. I think that they'll fancy if it's going to do a bit. And by all accounts, from what I've seen interviews this week, they say when the floodlights come, the ball starts doing quite a lot. I think they'll fancy that Archer, Anderson, and Stokes can blow over that Indian batting order if needed, if they're fit to fire.
So okay, you got Archer, Anderson, Stokes. Have you got Wokes in the side?
No, I just have Besson for Moeen and then play the same.
Okay, all right. I thought it was rather cheeky the way that you've got the names Stokes, Folkes, and Wokes.
They'll probably bat pretty much next to each other as well. So there's certainly some poetic, certainly some nice words there. But I don't see them playing. I think Wokes was probably 5th or 6th seamer down the list, to be honest. You've got Wood, Broad, and Stone arguably above him, but it just shows how strong England's bowling stock is at the moment. Probably if you speak to Adam when he played in the 90s, I bet England didn't have the 8th choice seam bowler that they could turn to, had taken so many test wickets. So
no, definitely not. It's a really strong. It's probably the strongest era of seam bowling that I can remember, or English seam bowling that I can remember in my time. I mean, you got 2 blokes up front there with 1,000 test wickets between them, more 1,100 test wickets between them. It's and then the backup of Archer, Wood, Wokes if called upon, Stokes. I train Marnus Labuschagne and he still swears that Stokes is one of the hardest seam bowlers he's faced because of his over the top and smooths it out. So it's a really good variety of quick bowlers they've got. But I think more important in this particular tour is probably the difference in class between the Indian spinners and the English spinners. I think that's starting to. I think I haven't been on. I missed the last test, unfortunately, Norman. That wasn't convenient. That was because I was just.
Wasn't it? Well, that's what we all were talking about that quite heavily.
I could feel the knives going in my back. Pretty. I heard what you were saying about me, Pretty. So it's
What did I say? I didn't say anything. Hey, don't bring me into
I didn't
this.
say anything, Pretty. I didn't put your name in any conversation.
Partner had a little voodoo doll with you, picking pins.
Yeah, I could feel them going in. But it's I knew this test is the big one. I see that I read just before that the side that if one of the sides loses this, they're out of the Cricket Test World Championships or out of the chance of being in the final. So this is a big one. And I think also when I last was on here, it was 1-0 to England. And I said, look, the odds would still be on India taking out this series, even though they were 1 down with 3 to play. I could never have agreed with Norman's prediction of 7-0 before the series started, but it's like it's
5-0, 6-0, 7-0. Where it's just growing. It's like a tree.
Norman still thinks they'll win 5-1, so it's.
No, I think this is a really important test. The only thing really going in England's favour here is that pink ball. But it's like as a captain, I'm thinking from a captain. It's a really hard. What do you do? Do you put all your eggs in one basket and go? If we don't win here, we're probably not going to win the 4th test. Do we put all our eggs in one basket, pink ball, pick our seam bowling attack, try and win here? That would be the aggressive thing to try and do. Whether that's sensible, I don't know. I mean, I'm fascinated to see what the England management come up with because it's probably one of the biggest test matches that's been played for a while this year for sure in the world.
Absolutely.
In front of a massive audience, the stadium looks. I know I'll stop short of saying it's a beautiful stadium, Norman. I'll say it's a gargantuan stadium. I'll agree with you on that, but it's certainly not pretty.
Well, I mean, it's gargantuan and pretty. They're rather other extremes.
Yeah.
Okay. The only person that's really pretty is Pretty, of course.
Oh.
Who's here now? I mean, I'm very handsome with my growth here at the moment. That's another thing. All right. Adam, so I'm not going to ask predictions just yet. I'll ask it in a short while. But my quick, bold prediction, I think this whole test match will be over in 3 days. Either way. Who wins?
Either way.
No, I didn't know. Well, I mean, I am going to pick a team. I'm going to say India. But I don't think it'll last long. I think both sides will. And I'm not going to say, which I did very smugly last time, and you weren't there for, that Rohit Sharma would be 147 not out the first day. And, of course, Chris went, like that. And the reality was that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, he does average 90 in India or something. I probably missed all this byplay, I'm sure, but it wasn't one of the... You didn't exactly go out on a limb there, did you, Norman? You didn't, like... It was like...
It's like Norman saying Ashton's going to take 3 wickets. It was like, oof, big prediction.
Yeah.
But your reaction though, Chris, you've got to remember you just lifted your head like you were some
I gotta see that.
some governor.
I don't think I did.
You need a replay, a reel for all the bloopers.
Is it poetic license, Preeti? I think would be a bit like Adam's 7-0. You know, it's sort of, being every time. We'll talk in a year's time, and it will be 26-0. So
you should never be one extreme. It's just life never works like that. It's never black and white. It's always gray. It's always in the middle, right?
Absolutely.
Well, okay, my prediction is three days test over. India win.
That's short.
I think that it suits England if you think that it's going to be over in 3 days, because I think that there's more chance that if they have to leave a bit of grass on the wicket for the ball, which is what apparently there's a really thick lacquer on this ball for it to hold, which means that they can't actually polish it, and it's quite a big pronounced seam. If that's the case, then it might not be swing; it might be sort of like seam bowling might come into it, and you know, as good as India are, that will suit an English style condition. So the only way I see if seam plays a massive role for it to end in 3 days would be that a side gets blown over by seamers, and I think that if it's more likely that India get knocked over cheaply by England, and in those conditions is what I would say. So I think that a end of day 4 test is probably likely, and that probably suits India the longer that the test goes on for, just because their spinners can come into it more.
Yeah.
Just an update. We've got somebody there called Kush Brahmbat. Unfortunately, he's trying to take away your facts earlier. He's saying that it is, in fact, that is Moterra Stadium is the world's largest sporting stadium with a capacity of 132,000, which is 132,000, larger than North Korea National Stadium with the capacity of 112,000. So I'm not sure whether this man's correct.
I don't know if those are the official numbers. I heard it was 110,000, and the one in North Korea is the one that's 130,000. So, yeah.
Well, and who's going to trust North Korea anyway on their facts?
Who's going to go there to do they even have a stadium? Does it exist? I don't trust anything that they say. Well, do they even have lights in their stadium? They're like a ghost town, you know.
Well, they don't play bloody sport as far as I knew. Anyway, the reality is the best person to talk about North Korea is actually Adam. He went to Afghanistan, probably not quite North Korea, but
very different.
Where are you going with this?
I'm not sure.
You could ask if you can get Kim Jong Un on tomorrow morning.
Next minute, I'm mates with Kim Jong Un.
Who knows? I'm sure Jeff Thompson knows. Well, I was pretty okay, but Pretty was able to tell me she was quite in on what was going on for this match actually, and she had a lot of very pertinent facts regarding the Indian team, and Umesh Yadav is likely to play. You're back. In fact, you had a great summary. Now, Pretty was earlier on, by the way, Adam and Chris. She was actually in Beverly Hills in California at the what was the hotel? The Montage.
The Montage Hotel.
Dressed to the nines.
Oh,
I saw that. I saw the update. Yeah, I saw it.
So you're in America at the moment, Pretty?
No, I live here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good.
All right. So just Pretty. Just go through some of your thoughts on the Indian team. You mentioned Umesh Yadav and the like. Talk about that.
Well, I was my take is that he won't play. They will have the 3 quicks and the 2 spinners. So I think he's going to miss out. I think it'll be Siraj, who will be the third quick bowler. But this is such a consequential game, and if either lose, it's game over for them and advantage Australia. And I think India can afford a draw, but they can't obviously afford a loss, and England can't afford they can't afford a draw or a loss, I think, right? They have to win both. So it's extremely important. And suddenly it's the World Test Championship final is at stake. And I'm sure Australians are watching very eagerly because there is a slither of a chance that they might just get in. You never know. Yeah, it's very interesting. But I think with India, the batting lineup is great. I don't think there's going to be any changes. Bowling, yeah, the two spinners and the three fast bowlers, but it all comes down to the pitch in the end. I'm hearing things that uh, they will leave enough grass in there. So I'm not so sure why they would do that. That would be a disadvantage to them. They could do a repeat of what they did in Chennai. I guess that might have suited them more, but I think they want to be fair. I don't know, or they're taking a very big gamble by having this day-night pink test in the first place. I don't know why they would do that, in the middle of possibly the most important series. So I hope their gamble pays off. It's very brave. As you mentioned, Norman, it's for viewership, it's for all of that jazz, perhaps. But if they lose, it's not a gamble that was worth taking, I think.
I guess the only thing that I'll say is that I agree with you, Preeti, entirely. I think that if England come out and Anderson takes 10 for, or Archer takes wickets and India get blown over, which in those conditions they
might, yeah.
That will probably be the last of day-night cricket seen in India, because they'll see, why would we get New Zealand over or Australia over, who we will wipe the floor with in our normal conditions. Let's face it, pink ball test is, I think, designed as much to get crowds in the stadium. In India, that's not really a problem. They're cricket mad. They're always going to get
tune in anytime, yeah.
Yeah, so they're never going to want to bring an overseas side in, and you might find that in future that New Zealand come over for a day-night test, and you've got Bolt, Southey, and Jameson running, and they take wickets, and they win a test match. And India won't want to do that. I guess the only thing I would say is that when this series was announced or organised, probably a couple of years ago, they wouldn't have known how big a bigger game it would have been in the World Test Championships.
But is it an ICC sanction though? Is it ICC sanctioned? It may not be something that you can avoid. I'm not sure.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
What?
Sorry,
test match or the ball?
A day-night test.
Oh, so they
have a good record they have won a few, and they can win, but I just feel like if they don't curate that pitch to their liking, it's not going to work out for them. And it's just so it comes at the most crucial time. Like if this was the first game that they had played, it's a different story. But it's like that one game that honestly, in 3-4 days time, I think we're going to be having a very interesting conversation of the future of Test cricket in a way, at least as far as World Cup goes, right? Everything will be revealed, and maybe Australia will be on their way to the final. We don't know that. It's so like touch and go, I think. Very, very exciting for the fans, but must be excruciating for the players to play both the sides. Must be, there's a lot at stake.
There's a couple of factors though. One interesting thing is I think what a lot of people we might be overlooking is that India also have a fine seam bowling attack. So it's not like England are the only ones with seam bowling. I think what you're saying is you're evening up the playing field, because the differential between the Indian spinners and the English spinners is there's a gap.
There's a gap.
I don't want to write the English spinners off, but there is a discernible gap between the Indian spinners and the English spinners. The interesting thing about the pink test is India, when having toured, in general, have refused to play pink test matches or tried to shut them down in the places that they've gone. And the BCCI, most powerful cricket board in the world, have sort of got that bargaining power to be able to do that. And it's quite fascinating now that they've chosen to potentially, well, they are playing a pink ball test and potentially on a greener wicket than what it's quite a fascinating to see how that's come about, really. And
I'm sure some conspiracy theorists the
Having a
radar is
field day.
going up like, what's going on here behind the scenes? Because this stuff does happen. We all know that, including World Cup.
The flat earthers are coming out.
There's a point that we're missing here, because Ashwin himself and even the likes of Shane Warne have mentioned, when it swings or moves, it also spins. That means a wicket that may not be built for spin bowlers may still spin, have a lot more bounce, and could be just as effective as your true lower bouncing spinning wicket too. So that's another thought in that process, that it may suit the fast bowling, but it
might suit the spinners. It might turn from the very first day, and I hope it does. I want to see that sort of a game. So I haven't seen this grass, so nobody has, right? When they start playing, we'll know exactly what the state of the pitch itself.
That's interesting. You're saying it might spin, but I think it's less the fact that it's going to spin and more the fact of what it's actually also offering the quicks. So yes, if it spins, it spins. It's India, it's going to spin, But the fact that it's going to allow the seamers, where historically India's been a graveyard for quick bowlers. So I think that in effect, by eradicating opponents' most potent weapon, which most sides from outside the subcontinent, it's their pace. That is what makes India such a difficult place to tour, because your most potent weapon is basically eradicated. So I think it's less the fact whether it's going to turn, it's the fact that, we're going to get to see the Indians challenge if the ball doesn't move around. Something which they're probably not.
But like you mentioned, there's Indian seamers are. I mean, come on, we have some excellent fast bowlers as well. So that will be a contest, actually.
What did you say, Chris?
England are batting.
So England won the toss and are batting.
Correct. Yeah. So that certainly makes it interesting. I think another point.
Chris, can you stop smiling, please? Do you mind?
Right, it's always nice. I think this makes the test really interesting now. Adam touched on the difference in class between the spinners and also how the seam bowlers are levels of playing field. I think another thing to remember on that front is the difference in ability that both batting lineups have in playing seam bowling compared to playing spin bowling. If you look at how much better India are at playing spin bowling, then if you think England are going to be a lot more accomplished at playing seam bowling and swing bowling, just because that's what they've grown up with and naturally better at. So also the spin factor. Apparently there's a lot of lacquer on this ball, and it gets dew. The dew could play a part in the last session. So how easy a spinner might be at gripping the ball in the last session if that ball is wet and slippery with the lacquer, then it's going to be interesting. And I think these teams could be quite interesting. And I think that England winning the toss and batting is massive, because way the second
and remember, Norman, we were talking about this earlier. I said, I wonder who's going to win the toss. And I had a weird feeling it was going to go this way. So this is a really interesting game now. It's really all kind of anybody's game now.
Well, it's put a lot of pressure on India, to be honest.
Yes.
That's the truth of it. It's put a lot of pressure on India.
Yes.
So the selection of the teams obviously happens before the toss. So let's see which way they gamble is the question.
That's true. I think if India I don't know about winning, that's always a chance. But if this ends in a draw, that's a good result for India, considering the situation.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got the updates from the teams yet, Chris. I'm not seeing anything yet, which is a bit unusual.
Archer, Anderson, Baristow in for Burns, Lawrence and Stone, which is us. They've not brought Bess in. So 4 changes. I think we're missing one because Moen.
Let me go through this. We've got Archer's return. Who?
Broad and Anderson playing by the looks of it. Interesting.
Well, I told you that would happen. I did say that, and you said no.
Yeah, it's a big punt. It's a big risk. So they've gone in with 4 seamers. The only reason I think they could do that is I'm guessing that Joe Root has said that he can bowl some overs and be effective. But it means that England's tail is quite long. You'll have Folkes at 7, Archer at 8, I guess. So that tail they're backing their bowling to do the business. They've obviously the management team and the thought and the theories behind it. They're obviously batting their seamers to do the business in this test match. So it's going to be interesting. Winning the toss is massive as well.
The very fact that they had to win this match was the fact that Adam said it a short while ago, having two bowlers that have got 1,100 wickets between them virtually, and that is Broad and Anderson together. I think you almost revealed the team by what you were saying, Adam. Correct?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not in the selection panel of the England setup, but I would have picked that same side. I don't usually go against what Chris says because he's proven to be Yoda over this series, and I very reluctantly go against anything he says. But I actually would have picked this side. I think the differential between Joe Root's off spinners and Dominic Bess's, I know it's a fitness thing, and is Joe Root going to be able to captain, bat for, and bowl the amount of overs that you're going to be asked to bowl in the subcontinent? But I think England's best chance of having something in it is to win this Test match. And Pink Test, I think this is their window. India, they can draw this Test or even lose it and still salvage something in the last Test. If England lose this, he's probably looking down the barrel of 3-1. So I think they have to. I as a captain would have put my eggs in the one basket and really gone for it. I would have picked the same side that they've gone. I find it interesting. I'm not there to see the pitch, but if there's anything there for the quicks, you'd think it would be in the first morning. But maybe they're thinking they'll bat and then get a go under lights tonight with the pink ball. So they're there. They'll have witnessed that, have trained the nights before and seen the effect that Dew has. So. Chris Silverwood and Joe Root's an experienced international player, and all the people around, they'll have thought about all those things, and I think that's why they've come up with it.
They must have trained for the last week, and they must have.
I was going to say they practiced on that very pitch, right? They know exactly what's going on with that pitch.
With Dew and the conditions, they'd have trained with the pink ball. Interestingly, we do use the pink ball out here quite a lot. In one-day fixtures and that, and you're right about the lacquer. It is a heavily lacquered ball, and if it does get damp, it's very hard for the spinners to grip. So,
which is interesting.
This is England's window. They've got a small chance, and it's a very small window. I think they've got to throw all their cards in and try and win this Test, and then try and hang on in that last one.
So Washington Sunday's in. I'm saying. Bumrah's
India have gone two seamers.
Oh wow!
They
made some interesting changes.
Both sides have completely gone polar opposites in terms of team. India have gone 3 spinners and 2 seamers, and England have gone 4 seamers.
Oh my God!
Which tells us what the pitch will be like. It's just going to spin. But England must back themselves under floodlight. England are probably saying we've got 5 sessions in the floodlight, or 4.5. I guess the halfway between lunch and tea will probably start getting dusk or getting gloomy. So India have gone 3 spinners, England have gone 4 seamers. It's very, very different.
Very interesting makeup. Not what I expected.
But Ashwin is really deemed to be an all-rounder now. I think they're looking at him as being the all-rounder, effectively, the Jadeja. So you've got Washington has come in. Who has he replaced? Okay, let's go through that. Who's Washington replaced?
Kuldeep and Bumrah's come in for Siraj. So they've got Ishant and Bumrah and 3 spinners.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go through the 2 sides, shall we? So England won the toss and they've elected the bat. They're going to open with Crawley and Sibley, followed by Baristow at number 3. Root, Stokes, Pope, Folkes, and then the bowlers.
Anderson,
Leach, and Broad.
It's a long tail. I mean, Archer's capable. I mean, Smokey's probably seen him a bit in Australia when he's been out there, and he averages 30, just over 30 in first-class cricket here. So we haven't seen the best of him yet, but I certainly wouldn't fancy him at 8 at the moment. But maybe it's his time to stand up and score some runs down the order. But both sides have got fairly lengthy tails. I mean, obviously Washington will strengthen that. He'll probably bat 8 and Axar 9. So actually the Indians have strengthened their tail. But interesting to see. It's clear to see what the pitch is going to be like. Kohli's chucked a load of eggs in his basket, hoping they won the toss, and he hasn't now. So it's obviously going to turn from day one. They're probably hoping to take England's seam out of it completely and just say, if we can bowl England out on the first day for a couple of hundred, then it probably takes the game away from England. But if England can be batting at the end of the day, then it's massive.
You say that, Chris, but this would be shock horror. I'm going to like go against you for the second time in one episode.
Well, there you go.
Not against you. I'm going to say we're presuming, as in you and I, we're both presuming that both captains have actually called it correctly. What we're seeing is a discrepancy in tactics. It could be all for the greatness of Root and the greatness of Crawley and their supporting team. Someone might have read it wrong. So
someone has.
Well, someone. What you're saying that that Crawley's done that. They think it's going to do that. Is it going to be someone after this Test match is going to be in the headlines for making the wrong decision? And it's going to be. That's the way it is. It's that, someone's going to have made the wrong decision. So who's it going to be, Root or Crawley? So that's interesting. They've gone in with opposing tactics. They've made it very clear. Both guys have put all their eggs in one basket, but just very separate baskets.
Yes, they're both taking a big gamble.
It's exciting. They've got to take the gamble. This Test is win all costs. The fact that against what Chris would ever suggest, Broad and Anderson have come in together, and I think I quote myself very clearly. I did say Broad and Anderson together, but it's all right.
I think it must tell us viewing, and I might be completely wrong, but they've been there 5 or 6 days training. They've said at the start of the winter that they don't want to play Broad and Anderson together. It must do a lot under lights there. It must, otherwise they would have played Wood or Stone because of the extra pace. So
true.
If I'm reading between the lines, it must say that it does plenty, because you'd play Mark Wood otherwise to try and be quick, the Jofra Archer style. So it must do a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see. As I said, it's a sort of Test match. You can see tactical declarations half an hour before play. It wouldn't surprise me if England can get to 300 for 8 with half hour to go. They might pull the plug and say, we'd rather have half an hour under lights at Rohit and Gill than try and get 3:30. So
100%.
I
think that you'll definitely see that, and that's why it's a fascinating Test. I mean, a lot of people say they don't like the pink ball, and it's kind of like we, as traditionalists, all of us are traditionalists. We'd say, we like to see batting pitches, but doesn't really adverse and different conditions add a lot of excitement, not just to the game, but we'd all be out of a job. Like if it wasn't
exactly.
It's fascinating to talk about who's got it right. Crawley, who's got it right? Root, have they read it right? What's it going to seem? What are they thinking? It's impossible to.
The pink test is not very uncommonly played. It hasn't been played that much at all. In fact, Australia has the best record out of everyone. I believe they've won 8 out of 8, and everybody else is, I think, they barely won 2. So
that's exactly
that might
right.
be because of the pace bowling attack. The Australian, Indian bowling and English pace bowling attacks are very good at the moment, but the Australians is probably the best.
Next level.
Yeah, and I think they take the conditions are very, very extreme.
They revel in those conditions, actually. That
100%. Yes, and they played more. They play Shield cricket,
and they played in Australia. I think they've played at home a lot, and they've won.
Right.
I think you're basically telling me, Pretty, you think Australia's through to the World Test. I'm reading through the lines there. I think you're saying Australia. No, I just like some of the comments. First of all, someone said Pretty is hot. Norman is hotter. Oh no, that wasn't.
That's your mum. She's obviously one of our 5 viewers.
And they did say I've got a nice background, at least. That's something. And Nalakshi Sharma has been very controversial. She's renamed the stadium after Narendra Modi, after the Prime Minister. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a bit of controversy going on there. And the reality is that it's just so much interest in this Test.
Yeah.
I'm bursting at the seams. I'm expecting Rohit Sharma to get 243.
It's funny. We are making some very wise predictions based on, and I think we all sort of agree mostly, kind of how things are going to go. But it could all go, completely the other way around. You never know. There could be drop catches and all sorts of things, and suddenly the scoreboard is very different. And maybe that's how things are going to play out, and it'll be interesting if that happens. Like despite losing the toss and all of that
great
stuff.
point. the fact is, you mentioned something very important
These
to a
things happen.
day-night start, is the actual catching, the fielding is distinctly harder and can create more issues when you do it that way. Correct. Absolutely.
And I think it'll be a low-scoring game.
I think
Not
so.
like the second one.
I still think 3 days.
I think it might go to 4.
Interesting now with England. We're trying to work out who's called it right. You've got to, I'm going to sort of agree with Smokey that my gut feeling says that India have probably got it right, just because home advantage, they know what the pitch is likely to be like, and you've got to feel that any time you're playing, England are taking a massive, and also Crawley will know that if Crawley gets this wrong and England win and the Seamers take all the wickets, Crawley is going to get hung, drawn and quartered in the press. He's going to get completely annihilated. Because if India lose, the only thing I'll say is that Seamers got it right. I think last time there was a pink ball test in India that no spinner took a wicket for India. I think the Seamers took all the wickets. So I know that was against Bangladesh, and we spoke yesterday. We had a partner on, and we spoke about that test. But I don't think a spinner took a wicket for India in that match. So this is it's interesting. I mean, it tells us what the pitch is going to do. It's going to spin. But England must just fancy that it's going to seam about, and they having practiced in it. But one captain is going to be crucified after this test in the press, and let's hope that it's not Joe.
So just quickly, the question of who selects the side. We haven't got Dave Graven here today, but there's a selection panel that puts together the team. That's not the playing 11. Is that the 13? And then the captain gets involved and picks the 11 out of the 13. Is that right?
Yeah, because it might not be Kohli's final decision either. I think, you have selectors. I mean, sometimes they drop the captain himself, right? I think there's this panel that picks. They consult the captain, maybe. You can't even blame Crawley for this, to be honest. There are other people who had a certain strategy and made a call.
I mean, I've sat in a couple of these meetings with. It's unfortunate David Graven couldn't get on here tonight. So, I can only speak from when I've actually been in selection meetings. Between the '98 series versus South Africa, I was actually in the selection meeting. They had David Graven as the chairman of selectors, had 2 votes. They had 2 other selectors, and I as captain was in there. We were tied 2-2 with who on a particular point, and then the chairman of selectors had the final say. We then went from the selection, once the squad was picked, that was the squad of 14. We then went, and the side on the day, the playing 11 was totally decided by myself as captain and the coach, David Lloyd. So, and I guess I would have, they must have thought I was going to remain as captain because I was involved in that selection captain. I wasn't involved in the next one because I got the sack. But that's my understanding of how it works, unless it's changed dramatically from back when I was.
All right, guys, it's now about 12 minutes or so till the game starts. As you can see, I'm getting increasingly dark here because my light's going. All right, just very quickly, we need to. Prediction of the day scores, Chris.
I think if England can get 300 in the first innings, I think they'll win.
Okay, so you're predicting England will get 300 in the first day?
I don't know if they will. I'm saying if they get to 300, I think they'll win. So I don't think they'll. I think their ethos under Chris Silverwood and their new is to bat long. So I don't see them going necessarily really quickly. They might try and be positive against the spin just because it's probably going to be the best day to bat, as we saw in the second test. If England can get anything over 250, then it's game on. I think if they can get to 300, I think they'll win. So I'm hoping that.
I'm talking about after the first day's play. You're saying how much?
Okay, I think England will be 260 all out, and India will be 20 for 2.
So 260 all out and 20 for 2. All right.
One thing India will not want to be is batting at the end of tonight. I think they would rather let England get 20 or 30 more runs and bat first thing in the morning than send the boys out against Broad and Anderson with a new pink ball under floodlights. I don't think they'll want to do that.
All right. So, okay. So that's 260 all out. England 2 for 20. India, Adam.
I think the scoring rate is going to be a bit faster on this pitch. There's a bit more grass on it. I don't think there's going to be as dry. So I think England will score a bit faster than they have done in the previous Test matches. I think they're going to be 295 all out, and I think India will have lost a couple of wickets
Let's hope so.
late on in the day. So similar, very similar to Yoda over there.
Okay.
Basically, I've just listened to what he said and just copied him. Basically.
Oh, that's
I don't know, but I'll take a random guess. They'll play all day, England, I think, and maybe they'll get to 270.
Okay. I'm predicting that England will be all out for 199, and India will be 1 for 60 at the end of the day's play.
Ooh. That's a great score if that happens.
For India,
I'll be celebrating.
I'm just waiting for Chris to laugh, but I think that it's not going to be. I mean, it should be England's way. They had the big opportunity to win this match, and they've got to go. Okay, guys, I'm aware that I'm becoming very dark here, so I'm going to have to cut. My great attempt to be outside has certainly worked to an extent, but not that far. All right, guys, we've got only 10 minutes to go. Thanks, guys. I think it's been wonderful today, and I think. Again, it's been great. Thank you very much, Anna, for coming on. Obviously, Pretty and Chris will have a post-game session, which will be about 2 in the morning your time, Anna, about 3 in the morning my time. So I'm not sure whether all will be available. Chris, what time will be at your location?
About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think. So it'll be ideal.
You're ideal. Pretty, what time will it be there?
I think it'll be early, but I have cleaners coming in at 7:30 a.m. So I'll be waking up at 6 a.m. to get out the door because we can't be here when they're cleaning up the plates. I'm gonna go to the Westfield, I think, and just hang there for a few hours.
Okay. All right, good. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone. We haven't mentioned. Sorry.
Can you give us a quick go at Bohemian Rhapsody, because you've got just your face lit up like that video of Queen.
Thunderbolt and lightning. Very.
When it sets up, we can all do it. We can all.
Galileo. All right, guys. All right. I'll see you all after the game if you wish to come. And for viewers, if you like and share, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And more importantly, converse with us. We love it. See you all, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. Good luck. Good playing.
See you later.
Ciao, ciao.
See you later. Bye.